Pick a Side Nation. This is your host, James Finley, with the Pick a Side podcast. Welcome back to the lab. We have a very special guest that is getting ready to come to the show. Her name is Toni Byrd. Oh my God. Great interview. Very candid about her journey going through COVID-19. I hope that you guys sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview. COVID-19, unfortunately, is not going anywhere. And so I plan on bringing guests on here to educate so you guys can understand that this is no joke. This is nothing to play around with. Unfortunately, Toni has been through hell and back. And hopefully her recovery won't take her back to that dark spot. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, hope all is well today. This is James Finley with the Pick a Side podcast, and a good hello to Pick a Side Nation. We are in the lab today with a very special guest. And before we get started, just want to bring attention to everyone what's been going on in this country that we call the United States of America. And we see that the president of the United States caught COVID-19 and is making a complete mockery out of it. So I wanted to kind of bring things into light with someone who has been through that battle a lot worse than what the president has. And she's here to tell her story. So I want to welcome to the lab Miss Toni Byrd. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. James, how are you?
I'm doing great. And just to let everyone know, this lovely face that you guys are looking at right now, um, a little while back it wasn't as lovely as it is now. But we are so very grateful that she is with us today. And so Toni has been through quite an ordeal over the past few months, needless to say. And so Toni, introduce yourself, kind of let everybody know what you're up to and what you kind of been through just a little bit, in terms of just work. We'll get into all the other questions about COVID in a minute.
Good day, everyone. My name is Toni Byrd. I am a native of Los Angeles, California, where I continue to reside. Um, Mother of three wonderful offspring, a grandmother to two, and I'm just your very average working um, individual that was really doing everything by the books to remain COVID free. And yet, some mysterious way, it hit me and it hit me pretty hard, to say the
Yeah,
least.
yeah. So, Toni and I, we're on Facebook together. We're friends on Facebook. And so before all the stuff hit home, Toni would have pictures of this and that. And I remember so vividly you had your girlfriends over one day. You guys were in the front yard and you guys were practicing social distancing and all that. It was so comical to me because you guys were like literally, it looked like you guys was more than 6 feet apart and all
Mhm,
that. And uh, although it was comical, it's real.
mhm.
So Toni, so let's take everybody back to where you have been doing all the things necessary to practice social distancing, wearing a mask, and all of that. So, how do you think everything started, and when and what date do you remember when you got the news that you had tested positive?
Um, so the day that you're talking about that you saw on Facebook, it was actually my birthday, which is mid-May. And I did. I had a very socially distant birthday celebration in my
Mhm.
front yard, which is extremely big, um, as well as my home is adjacent to a empty lot, so there was plenty of room for everyone to set up their chairs and be very um, distant from each other, as well as be within um, reach to be able to all enjoy ourselves. And I hosted an outdoor concert. So I had the guy in the red truck come and give us a concert because at that point we have been quarantined for 2 months. Um, People were getting a little bit of cabin fever. Um, People were still very nervous about it. They were missing their loved ones and things like that. And so I just tried to be a little creative and come up with a way for us still to be safe and to enjoy a little bit, to still celebrate. And it turned out to be, a really, really good event. Even my neighbors came and set their chairs out on their front lawns to enjoy the music and just to party in their own yards as well. So um, I don't think, well, I'm pretty sure no one contracted COVID, during that time.
Mhm.
Um, I actually contracted it. Well, when did I actually contract it? I have no idea. But I awoke June 22nd. That morning when I woke up, I was just extremely ill. I showed no symptoms the night prior, which it was Father's Day weekend. Um, I showed zero symptoms that previous evening when I went to sleep. So it was quite shocking to say the least to wake up like so ill. I had maybe 9 of the symptoms of COVID when I awoke, which was I had fever and chills. I had a horrible cough. I had terrible headache. I had body aches. I had fatigue. I could barely get out of the bed that morning. Um, I had a sore throat. So I just woke up like that. And even at that time, COVID wasn't even on my mind. I definitely wasn't thinking that I had COVID.
So 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 literally you went to bed perfectly fine one day, one night,
Yes.
and you woke up and you was just like, what the heck is going on?
I felt like I got hit by a Mac 10 truck. Literally. I was in so much pain. I could barely move. And I'm not a sickly person at all. I rarely catch the common cold. Never had the flu. Um, so I was just really in shock when I woke up.
So how long did it take for you to go to urgent care or to the emergency or to the hospital to see what was going on?
So that was Monday morning. And I went to urgent care the very next day, which was Tuesday, because it was not letting up. And I'm not big on medication. I'm not
Right.
one to, something starts to hurt, I'll just go pop a pill. I try to really deal with things before I resort to modern medicine. And by the next day, like somebody take me to urgent care. So I went within 24 hours for sure.
So did you during this whole time, during the whole day that you were feeling very, very ill, did the thought of you possibly having COVID run across your mind?
Not at all.
So
No, not
from
at all. Well, not at all until maybe I was on my way to urgent care. I think it kind of like dawned on me. This is quite a few of the symptoms of COVID. But yet, I'm also a person that I don't watch television. Um, so I had not been watching the news and keeping up with what was actually going on.
mm, so you get to the hospital and they so what did you notice different, you know, some some previous times that you may have went to the hospital for urgent care, whether it was you going for yourself or whether it was you taking one of your kids to urgent care. What is it different about this particular time that you went to urgent care than any other time in terms of procedures that was at the hospital?
Well, um, we went to my son drove me to urgent care, and he went in to sign me in because it was taking me a while to get out the car. And he came back with the clipboard and said, "Mom, don't get don't continue to get out the car." He said they have a new procedure. And we actually had to drive around behind the urgent care, and that is where they were actually triaging the patients. So
Hmm.
there is no contact. They had me sign the forms, and then I actually had to email the forms. So don't even go back in the building. They had me email the forms, and that's how they received the forms and basically signed me in. And so in the back of the urgent care center, they literally had spaces allotted for you to park that were socially distant. Um, and as well, I'm sure for HIPAA reasons, because they were physically examining you and triaging you in the parking lot.
Wow.
So at that point, it really got real. Like, not even at the point that, oh, I for sure have COVID, but like COVID has really changed how we're operating these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got admitted, well, you went in, got admitted, and everything. So when did they administer the test to you for COVID-19?
So there's a little more to my story than that.
Okay.
I went to urgent care. That was the 23rd. They basically didn't do anything, um, except for tell me what which became kind of standard information of treating your symptoms, which I had already been doing. So it was really a waste of time on the 23rd on that Tuesday.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I stayed home, continued to, by now I'm, you know, getting every medication there is for every symptom I have.
Hmm.
Tylenol, Pepto-Bismol, um, throat uh, lozenges, just all kinds of stuff. We went into CVS and just had a field day.
Yeah.
Nothing was working. My fever stayed at 103,
Oh.
which left me very, very uncomfortable, during this whole duration. So I waited 48 hours on the 25th and actually went to urgent care this time. Went to urgent care. They That's when the test was administered to me.
Okay. So
Um,
this is 2 days later.
so yes, so
Okay.
this is now 3 days from onset and 2 days from urgent care.
Right.
So they administered the test, even though they told me that it was impossible to get the test in the emergency room, which
Mhm.
me being a healthcare professional and me also being at my job, this is where I actually work, where I went to the emergency room. So for them to tell me, oh, we're not testing here. What do you mean you're not testing here? That didn't make any sense. But I think that was protocol. I think the protocol over the months, had changed because now we're in June and COVID had been identified in the world. We have been shut down since March. I think it was just a change in protocol that everyone that's running to the emergency room is not going to be able to get tested, and so this just became a script basically. But I could tell that the doctor that was seeing me that day, I could just look at her and tell that she was concerned about me. But
Mhm.
my labs, even though I looked horrible, even though I looked absolutely awful, my labs did not indicate the what they were looking for. So whatever labs they were looking to be really abnormal, for me at that time were not abnormal or not abnormal to the level that they would have liked in order to do something more for me. So, but I could just look at her and tell that she wasn't happy with things, but she's following protocol. So before she sends me home, actually a nurse comes in and says, "Oh, we're going to test you for MRSA. It's a nasal swab." And I'm like, "Whatever, okay." That was they were actually administering the COVID
The COVID
test.
test. Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't tell me that. And I think she was just trying to help me out. So the test has now been done. They still send me home. Um,
Mm.
and gave me nothing different from what I already had. So I actually had to go to the emergency room 3 days later, which is now the 28th, which is Saturday. That same ER physician from the 25th called me and told me that my results came back positive and asked me how I was feeling. She really called and said, "I'm off today, but I've been thinking about you. And I wanted to call you personally and basically do a wellness check and give you your results." So, okay, at this point, we know I have COVID. And by now, I feel like I'm dying, to be honest with you. I've struggled with it for almost a week at this point, and I was extremely weak. I was it was just awful, and I felt so bad that day. I went back to the emergency room to be sent home again. So now within 6-day period, I've been to urgent care once, emergency room twice, and I have been sent home, every time. So that's my precursor to the hospitalization. I actually didn't get accepted um, into the hospital until July 1st, which at that point, I'm positive that I was dying.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Hold on, Tony. Hold on, Tony. I'm sitting up here getting mad. Okay, so June the 23rd is when you woke up feeling like pure.
22nd.
Okay, so June 22nd, you woke up feeling like a Mack truck hit you.
Mhm.
You done went to urgent care, you done did ER a few times, and you're being sent home every single time. And it
I'm
wasn't
being wheelchaired out because I couldn't even walk. I'm physically being wheelchaired to the car, assisted in my car, and sent on my way. Mhm.
okay. So here's a question. We're gonna get back to the you getting actually admitted into the hospital.
Sure.
So you basically had COVID-19 that day that you woke up and you were feeling like a Mack truck hit you.
Yes.
So the people who stay with you or whatever the situation is, did they catch it? I mean, were they okay?
Yes. They were, which is a blessing because I have a very busy household. I have young adult children. I have essential workers, in my home, and everyone was fine, except for me.
Mm,
When I got the positive results, I sent everyone to get tested immediately that day. We had
yeah.
already been getting tested like basically every 2 weeks. The testing
Okay.
center was right up the street from our home. Um, Again, we were making it like a family field trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much we wake up like, "Hey, you guys want to go get tested today? Okay, we'll go at 12 o'clock. Everybody be here." We jump in the car, make the appointment as we're driving over, and because we had learned the system by then that they really only needed the number,
Hmm.
and it didn't matter what your testing date and time was. They just needed that number. So we would go probably every 10 to 14 days, just as a family field trip, and we were always negative. So I sent them immediately that day.
Yeah. All right. So you you get admitted to the hospital on the 31st, correct?
The first,
On
the
the
first we
first.
had to call. Yeah, we had to call 911 in the middle of the night, about 1 in the morning, and yeah, they took me to my local
Hos-
emergency room.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So All right, when you finally get admitted to the hospital, were you immediately taken to um, ICU, or were you placed into a regular room?
So when they sent me to the local emergency room, I had to go through the transfer process to my actual contracted facility. And once I got to that facility, they sent me to um, it's actually the PCU unit. That's where
Hmm.
they were housing our COVID patients.
Hmm.
And that's the floor where I was initially admitted until everyone came in and saw me. And basically, maybe within an hour, I was rushed to ICU after my initial evaluation by the attending I was on call, as well as the infectious disease physician.
Wow. And so once you got in the ICU, uh, how long was it before they put you on a ventilator?
Thank God I was not ventilated. Um, I was rushed to ICU because I pretty much was on the fence. Um, Not quite needing ventilation, but you know, I very well could have taken that turn to where I needed. So they already put me in that setting because I was that close, and they wanted to take. They were being proactive finally at this point,
Right, 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 right.
um, to save me just in case. So I did not go on a ventilator. I went to ICU and I was on a high flow oxygen, and basically I was one step below the ventilator. So whatever they had me on, if that didn't work, I was already in
Yeah.
place to be on
And,
the ventilator.
and so, ladies and gentlemen, let me just kind of just go in right now. So, uh, although she was in ICU, Tony was posting on Facebook. She posted on Facebook one day, and when I logged on to Facebook this particular one day, and I saw her, and keep in mind, I've always seen Tony smiling and just looking happy and cheerful, and I'm looking at this person, I'm just like, my mouth is wide open, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Um, so let me be transparent. You didn't look good, and you look like you had one foot in the you know what.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said, Lord, whatever you do, please don't let nothing happen to her.
Mhm.
And it was surreal because you see somebody one week just looking so well and everything, and then they're on the verge. Me myself, I know what that's like, because I know what it's like when doctors come in and give you a whole boatload of bad news. But in terms of how you were feeling, at what point were you in your head that was you was really asking yourself, am I really gonna make it?
Um, so one slight correction. When you saw me make that post, that was actually 4 days in. So that wasn't even my initial,
Oh,
that was not, no. Um, when I was in ICU, I had contact with no one. Well, I'm likely talked to my children on the phone, but unfortunately, I don't even have really recollection of my ICU experience. That part is kind of like a blank in my head. I remember being rushed there, and I really don't remember anything else until I got transferred back down to PCU. So that was day 4 when I made that video. So as bad as I looked, I was doing a lot better. And that says a
wow,
lot that I was still looking, that I was still
wow,
looking
wow.
like
That's
death. I mean, let's
yeah,
be honest, I was looking like death. My mother was scared. She said I was gray. She was she was just so frantic for me. Um, Personally, I didn't know if I was going to make it when I called 911. At that point, I'm very transparent. So That's just me. By the time I called 911, I literally was laying across my bed, only panties, under my fan, high speed, just sweating profusely. Could barely breathe, could barely move. And that's when I really had a conversation with God, um, because I physically felt like I was dying. I physically felt at that point where I'm 7 days, no, excuse me, I'm 9 days in. This is the wee hours of the first of July 1st. So I'm 9 days into dealing with this the best that I knew how. By now, I have a bucket of medication that we're trying to take, everything under the sun to treat every symptom that I had, because that's all I could do at the time. Even when I had went to the last emergency room visit, I asked the physician, Can you just give me the medication they keep talking about on the news?" Like, I was desperate for help at that point. Um, which the physician did agree to give me the azithromycin, but not the hydrochlor something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
was talking about. He even said, I'm not going to give you that. There's not enough evidence that it's working, but I will give you the azithromycin. And I think that was really just to pacify me because I asked for it. Um, So that's when I really did not know if I was gonna make it by the time I asked my daughter, who came to check on me to see if she could help me to the restroom. Um, and I was just like, call 911. So it was at that point. It was on the first.
You know, I I tell people my story when I was in the hospital, and when I had a boatload of doctors that came into our room and they told me that I only had 7 hours to live, literally. However, the difference between you and I was feeling perfectly fine. I wasn't in no pain, and I couldn't understand why these guys were telling me I only had 7 hours to live. However, that seeped up in my brain, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, I only have a couple of hours to live. So what do I do?
Wow.
So as you are in your brain, you're feeling your body just literally just like, I know I'm not about to make it, you
Mhm.
know. So let everyone know what goes through a person's brain when they get to that
Yeah.
point of where it's like this is kind of almost it.
First off, I was scared.
Hmm.
I was extremely fearful. Um, a huge sadness hit me. Of course, I was thinking about my children. We
Yep.
had just lost my husband, um, 14 months prior, very
Hmm.
suddenly. So that was still very vivid
Yeah.
in my head. At the same time, I was telling my husband, bruh, don't be trying to come get me. Like, I ain't ready,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Right. Right. Right.
leave me alone, you know. No, really, I kid you not. I was
Yeah.
having that conversation with
Yeah.
him, like,
Yeah.
go on somewhere, leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I was very, very, very scared. I was very scared. I didn't feel like I was prepared to go.
Right.
I'm in my mid 40s. Um, and I just didn't think it was going to be fair to my children, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. A lot of my thoughts were not based really about me. They were really based on my children.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I just kept saying, God, that would just be so unfair. Like I
Yep.
have great kids. I have
Yeah.
great kids. And I
Yeah.
just feel that they would not deserve something like that.
Yeah.
That was such
Yeah.
a horrible story for them and such a horrible life path, to
Yeah.
lose two parents. Very unexpected, very sudden, within such a short span of time. And we're good people. We're
Yeah.
good family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And please don't do that to them. That was my prayer, Lord. Please
Yep.
don't do that. Please don't do
Yep.
this.
I
But
had to I had the same prayer. You know, my prayer was my son was a senior in high school and 1 month from graduating. And
mhm,
all I kept saying, God, you cannot do this to me, Lord. I said,
yeah,
you know, we worked so hard to get to the point to where my son is getting ready to graduate. And I even just said, Lord, just let me be able to see him walk across the stage. You know,
mhm,
whatever you want to do after that, fine. But at least, Lord, let me see my son graduate. So it's
yeah,
just amazing how it's not even about us at that
mhm,
particular time.
not
It's
at all.
always about those kids and how those
Yeah,
kids are going to feel for this. So let's go ahead and go through the little process because everything that we see on TV during this COVID-19 era. We hear about families that are isolated once they get into the hospital. They cannot have visitors, they can't see family members. So you're in the hospital.
mhm.
And so, how was that isolation period for you not being able to have visitors, or was that the situation with you as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. No visitors at all. Not even when 911 took me to the first facility. No one could go with me. No one could do anything. So I actually ended up in the hospital for 13 days. And for me personally, I needed I needed that time to myself. And the reason why I was okay with it was because my children had already witnessed me suffer for 9 days.
Hmm.
And I'm talking about I was at the lowest of my low.
Yeah.
And when I would see them and I could see the fear in their eyes,
Yeah.
there was nothing I could do about it except for try to, you know, flash a smile every once
Yeah.
in a while and try to give them some sense of hope. But they're looking at me every time they're looking at me, it's like deer caught in the headlights. They're looking like just, you know, and I was glad at that point that I was actually separated from them
Yeah. Yeah.
so that they didn't have to continue to watch this process,
Right. Right.
to watch me fight and battle for my life.
Yeah.
And that they could have some sense, even though they were worried about me and we talked and we FaceTimed and we did all that kind of stuff while I was in the hospital. It was much easier for me to mask it at that point.
Hmm.
We're having a 30-minute conversation. Yeah, I could sit up there and I could talk to them. And, when I would get off the phone, I put my oxygen back on and do all the stuff that I needed to do. But at that point, I felt good because I was in an environment where they couldn't witness what I was really going through any longer.
Right. Right.
And not to give them a false sense of hope or anything like that, but just let them relax for a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They have been through a lot and then watching me go through this. I felt horrible while I was home that they had to endure, this with me. So I was super happy that I couldn't have any visitors in the hospital and that
Right.
it gave me time to go through how I personally felt, you know, have my talks with God, have my talks with myself, um, and figure some things out without having to really be a parent, during that time. So for me, it was good.
It's amazing how when you get to a point uh, in your darkest hour,
Mhm.
and especially when you by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I was able to have visitors that during that time. I was in my ex wife, and my sister would come down to see me, and when they would leave, um, I'm there for the rest of the night. I'm just laying up there like, what's going on, and you do a lot of self reflecting. You start putting life into its proper perspective,
Oh yeah.
and it's a whole lot of that. So you survive you
Hmm.
survive the hospital part of it,
Right. Yeah.
and then there was a second video that you had posted where you looked better. I'm screaming through the phone where you can't hear me. I'm like, get off the phone, Tony. I like literally. I'm like, Tony, hang, and you just kept. I'm like, shut up, Tony, and get off the phone. And the reason why I'm saying is because I'm literally seeing you like grasping for air, like you can't breathe, like you couldn't breathe, and I'm
Mm-mm.
just like, oh, shut up, So, you know, I was happy that you got to a point to where you were from the first video that you had
Hmm.
posted. However, it still looked like there was a whole lot of this was going to be an uphill journey in terms of
Right.
recovery.
Right.
So I interviewed a young lady a couple of months ago, Angela Norwood, who had COVID, not as bad as you, but still she had to go through the whole process. And before I interviewed her, I I made the mistake of saying, "Hey, I wanted to interview you being a survivor," and she quickly had to check me to let me know that's not correct, James. I'm surviving because she's still not well and she's
Correct.
still going through a whole lot.
Hmm.
So, what has all of this made have gotten you to this point? Like, you know, I would take it that you're nowhere close to what you used to be.
Not yet.
So, if you were to say Tony Byrd, 100%, 90%, 80%, what percentage would you say Tony Byrd is
Mm.
at right now?
Oh gosh. Well, I've come a long way. Let me say that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, I
You
was
got color in
discharged.
your face now.
Yeah, I'm not gray anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I was sent home on oxygen and a couple of different medications, and um, I I could talk now. I could breathe. I'm no longer on supplemental oxygen, and I'm no longer actually on any medication COVID related. Um, but yet, what we found during this process is that you don't just get COVID and then you're just better and everything is back to normal. Unfortunately, um, I didn't even know this in the hospital. I know you were saying the doctors come in, they give you all this bad information. They didn't give me any information. When I was in the hospital, I only knew that I was COVID positive and that I had pneumonia. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else until after the hospitalization, and I was able to log into my portal, my online record at the hospital, and I found out that I was septic, which could kill you in
Yeah.
itself.
Right.
Um, I had acute kidney failure.
Mm.
I didn't know that. I was in acute respiratory failure.
Whew.
I didn't know that. As well as now, remember all those labs that were so relatively normal? They were all off the chain. I mean, when I looked at my
Yeah.
labs, everything was red. And it was just amazing that so many of your what is it, your electrolytes and things like that,
Yeah.
control your heartbeat. So there were issues with that. My blood pressure and all that was just off the chain during the hospitalization. It did all kinds of stuff to me. So even after the fact, during the recovery period, when I'm expecting just consistently get better,
Mm.
I started having symptoms that were brand new
Mm.
while I'm home. I'm actually
Yeah.
home at this point. Um, So at this point today, I would say that I'm probably 70%
Well,
myself. I would
for you to be at 70%, for
say
you to
70.
for you to be at 70%, man, we gonna take that 70%. We gonna
Yeah,
run up and down the streets and be like, "Thank you, Jesus, Hallelujah!" Because
absolutely.
when that first video, you look like you was at 10%. And
I probably was.
the good thing about all of this is that, when things happen to us in our lives, um, everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
I'm totally convinced of that. But we also have an opportunity that when once we go through, you know, the trials and tribulations, sickness, illness, however you want to put it, it gives us an opportunity to be able to help others through this.
Hmm. Correct.
So, what are some of the things that you would like to kind of share with those who have contracted COVID-19? And what are some of the things that you want to encourage them during their convalescence?
Whew, what I would say to anyone that has contracted it is to just stay positive. Um, it's still it's still so much in the unknown um, about it, about long-term effects, and even and everyone's case is different. I mean, there's some similarities here and there, but COVID, when COVID invades you, because that's how I feel like it totally invaded my body, like completely violated me and just took over and did whatever it wanted to do. And no one could say, "Oh, you have COVID, so expect A, B, and C to happen, or expect to feel like, blah, blah, blah." No, they're like, "You have COVID, and let's just watch and see what it does to you. Let's just watch and see how you feel. Let us know if anything um, is not normal for you." Um, so I would say, try, do your research. What was very beneficial for me during my recovery was I actually found two social media COVID survivor groups, or COVID recovery group,
Okay.
where I was able to just kind of, go through the post.
Hmm.
And I quickly realized that a lot of symptoms that I had, and I continued to get these different symptoms or whatever, even during the recovery process, I wasn't alone. You
Right.
know, um, my most recent one that I documented, that I made a post about, was I just found out last week I've lost 50% of my hair. I had my hair in braids that I wore like in a bun during
I
my
saw that.
recovery process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I took my braids out, and I'm a lifetime braid wearer, so don't say it's from the braids. I know how much shedding comes when I take my braids out. I wear my braids probably 65% of the year, every year. And when I took my braids out, literally, it's like a basketball size wad of hair that has come out of my head. And I'm like, oh wow. And yeah, I went to get my hair done, since now the city is open to that. And my stylist that was doing my hair was like, "Toni, you have about 50% less hair than you did when I did it for your birthday back in May."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Damn it, COVID." Sorry, excuse my French, but that's what I said.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey,
you know,
listen,
and
yeah.
and while I was in the chair, she had never heard of that. She hadn't had any other clients that had gone through this. So while I was in the chair, I actually went to my survivor groups, and I just put in search term hair loss, and it's
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
posts, just about that one topic.
Yeah.
So I was able to learn a lot um, about it through what I was feeling, and then have it confirmed pretty much through the survivors groups, because we all have had it. And so we're the best people, to talk to. So
Absolutely.
I would say don't feel alone. Don't feel alone if you've had it, or if you end up contracting it, because it's still very actively out there. Um, but at the same time, don't feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a problem that I'm hearing. and I've been very transparent with mine, as you said, from day 4 in the hospital when I was totally, you know, almost at my worst. In my video, there was no hair combing, there was
Oh
no
no.
nothing. I was very raw
Yeah,
with it because I wanted to show um, what it really looks like, what it
yeah,
really looks like,
yeah,
what it does to you. You know, there's nothing pretty about it. So I wasn't trying to doll myself up.
yeah.
Um,
It was raw.
but
It was raw.
with me sharing, I have learned that a lot of people are embarrassed and they don't say, you know, they have it and they're not kind of sharing that they're even positive or have gone through it. And feel the complete opposite. I feel, I mean, as you said, there's a lesson in everything.
Right.
And the fact that I got it, little old plain Jane,
Mhm.
normal me, the fact that I contracted it very mysteriously because I was very homebound, very housebound, you know, during that time, as well as frequently testing, just because I live with essential workers. Um, that I felt I needed to share my story. I needed to share. It was still so many rumors at that time that it was fake and it's just the flu and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
blase, and I'm like, no, it's none of the above. It has nothing to do with a cell phone tower. It you know it's, I mean, who knows if it's man made? I can't say because
yeah.
whatever.
Well, the one
But
thing,
it's
the one
very
thing that's cool. Like I said, hey, you are here to do this video and this interview, which I so thank you for doing this for me. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I've been wanting to do this with her for a little while, but she kept ignoring my phone calls and my text messages and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why, but that's what she was doing. Don't do it. Don't do it, Tony. Don't make this interview go bad, Tony. Don't do what you're getting ready to do because I know what you're getting ready to do. So anyway, y'all. I know what she's getting ready to do. That's why I'm telling her don't do it. And I see the look on her face. But I am so very happy that you have made it through. And I
thank
know that
you.
you still have a ways to go. And I know that um, the only reason that you're here is by the grace of God.
Mhm.
And I don't care what nobody say. That is the only reason why you are here because I'm quite sure the things that you found out on your file, you are not supposed to be here
Right.
according to the medical terms.
Mhm, mhm,
But there's still a lot of work to do for
mhm,
you. And
mhm.
so I'm just hoping that whoever has the opportunity to watch this video interview with you will be able to take something from it. Uh, Let me just give my little last take on this before we get ready to close on out. You say you don't watch a lot of news, right?
Mhm.
All right, so I'm really upset. Not at you, but I'm upset with society because the president goes catches COVID and is given every single thing that there is in terms of medications to make
Mhm.
somebody better.
Right.
And for him to make a mockery out of those such as yourself to have gone through this whole process that he didn't have to go through, and for him to say that COVID basically is not a big deal, that is very upsetting to me with all the loved ones that I know who have had it, and for the
Mhm.
4 individuals that I knew personally that have passed on from COVID-19. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that you guys need to take very serious.
Mhm.
Uh, Keep on doing the necessary steps. Wear your mask, wash your hands, do the social distancing, and all that other kind of stuff. So Tony, I'm gonna let you go ahead and do the last word. And Tony, just so we can take the speculation out, go ahead and show everybody what you was getting ready to go ahead and do anyway.
I wasn't gonna do
Oh,
it.
yes, you was. Go on and do it.
No,
Go on.
I
Hey,
promise
go
I
ahead. All
wasn't.
right, let me just say, let me get out there, everybody. So, in every video, you guys know I went to Crenshaw High School, okay? Everybody knows it. I make no doubt about it. So go ahead and show what you was gonna show.
So now you're gonna make me do it. Okay,
So
that's
go ahead.
fine. That's
Go on.
fine.
So anyway,
Hey,
so everybody, for those in Los Angeles, that was Dorsey High School. So you know that Dorsey Crenshaw like oil and water. We don't mix at all. So anyway, but Tony, you got the last word. So let everyone know kind of how you're doing at this particular time right now, and what the future looks like for you.
I'm still recovering. It's still a daily situation for me, and but I'm highly encouraged. I'm highly encouraged. I'm not upset with God. It's a reason why I got it, and still trying to figure it out. But in the meantime, I thought it best to share my experience to make it more real for people that were, on the fence about if they were going to believe it exists and what it could possibly do and all of that. I mean, I showed you firsthand um, what it did and what it's doing. I continue to share my experience with COVID. I feel I'm not a survivor at this moment. I feel that I am surviving and that I am still in recovery. I haven't even been back. I haven't even been released to go back to work yet. It's very serious, but we can get through it. And I feel very blessed. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have survived and to continue to be here. And if you or anyone close to you happens to contract it or dealing with it, tell them let's turn these lemons into lemonade. Take the experience and share it and help educate, or just do something positive with it. If it's just supporting other people that have it, because some of us feel like it's nothing to be embarrassed about. And then I hear that so many people are in the closet about it. Why? I don't understand. I mean, we're victims. We didn't ask for it. It
Right,
just landed on us some kind of way.
right,
So I don't understand why anyone would really be embarrassed
right.
about it. But it is what it is. And so I just encourage everyone to continue to stay positive. If you lost loved ones to it, or good friends or family, my condolences. I have lost a couple of people to it as well. And it just tears me up every time I hear of that, of a passing from it. Um, but yet I'm gonna continue to just be excited that I'm still here in the land of the living, and take my time that I have left on this earth, and make sure it's more useful for myself and however I can help. I just want to shine the light and be helpful to my community as
Yeah,
always. Now I
yeah.
just have another layer of what I can contribute or add, and if it's just awareness for education about this horrible, horrible, horrible COVID-19, let that, so be it.
Yeah.
So just stay encouraged.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, listen, Tony, thank you so very much for being a part of this on this Pick a Side podcast.
My
And
pleasure.
like I said, hey, all jokes aside, it's I- I'm I'm thrilled that you are doing a lot better
Thank you.
with this, and we'll
I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate you
absolutely,
reaching out. I appreciate your
yeah,
concern, and thank you for thinking of me to come on Pick a Side to share my story.
hey, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, Pick a Side Nation, we want to thank everyone once again for tuning in. And we know that we went a little bit longer, but hey, I didn't want to short change this story of Tony because I felt that it was something that everyone needed to hear. And so I thank you guys for hanging on in there to listen to it in its entirety. So, hey, I'm going to leave the show and close the show out with what I always do. Hey, keep God first place in your life. He'll take you places that you never dreamed of. Tony, thank you so very much for coming into the lab. Don't leave the broadcast studio just yet, but thank you once again.